Hello and welcome to GuySuCo Roundup. I'm your host, Curtis Hital. The sugar industry has borne responsibilities from its genesis. The movement of peoples to the then British Guyana resulted in a fusion of cultures and opportunities. Centuries later, GuySuCo remains responsible in its communities, bringing another dimension to the level of commitment shown to employees and those closely associated with sugar. As an employer, GuySuCo commits to adopting a safe and healthy generation. These have been packaged on this week's program of GuySuCo Roundup. Do stay tuned.
From the very land that gave sugar around the world the name Demerara comes the finest quality of cane sugar, Demerara Gold. Enjoy the real thing from the original source, the rich, fertile Demerara coastline where sugarcane has been harvested since the mid-17th century. The result is here for you to enjoy. Wherever this unique sugar flavor is needed, Demerara Gold is the ingredient that will always create a stir.
To former employees, here's an opportunity to become a tradesman certified by the Board of Industrial Training through the GuySuCo Training Center. In partnership with the Ministry of Natural Resources, the GuySuCo Training Center at Port Morant will offer basic technical training in refrigeration, electrical installation, welding and fabrication, and motor vehicular servicing and repairs. Application forms are available at the Skeldon, Rose Hall, Enmore, and Wales Estate, as well as the GuySuCo Training Center.
Welcome back. Let's now join Georgiana Bola at the news desk.
Thank you, Curtis. Hello, everyone. Iflat Estate, having contributed to the first crop efforts, has begun to undertake major works in preparation for an improved second crop. Albion and Blairmont Estates, therefore, will take responsibility for producing the remaining tons required for the first crop. On the marketing front this week, a 24-ton shipment of Demerara Brown is destined for Antigua, with molasses reaching Suriname. 8 Caribbean countries, inclusive of St. Croix, the Cayman Islands, and Tortola, are scheduled to receive sugar in bagged and packaged forms. The focus has shifted to safety to ensure strict adherence to international requirements.
We always say safety first, and safety is first and foremost. So while we can linger on production, we must deal with the most critical resource that we have, which is the human resource. So our objective is to have every single harvester exposed to 1 day of targeted intensified training. And this training is not just done by anybody. This training actually has all head departments having presentations. There's a field visit. There are actual demonstrations as to safe working practices. There's a presentation on the cost of accidents, how it affects not just the harvester or the injured person, but how it also affects the estate as a whole and the company and even the country, right? And since we've started this initiative, we have had, today is the 13th session, and we've trained 486 of our 975 harvesters. So we're getting very close to completing to our target, rather, of seeing 100% of the harvesters trained. And that, we have found since last October, has led to a drastic decline in the amount of accidents we've had on the estate. We intend to, at the end of our first goal, to have all harvesters trained. We intend to then branch out to the other sections, the factory, the field workshop, to ensure that at the end of it all, every single employee would benefit from this targeted session.
The workers were very safety conscious. They were adhering to all the safety rules. They wore their helmet, they wore their overall. And we were doing risk assessment a lot. So on each major job we were doing risk assessment. So that helped us a lot to bring down the accident rate. Apart from their working habit, which was very safe, we had a Proterra audit that the factory were audited on a safety aspect, because our customer who are buying our sugar, they want to know that we produce this sugar under safe and hygienic means. We must apply by all the safety rules. I will now implore on the worker to continue working safely, adhere to all the safety rules, use their PPE, that is their personal protective equipment, so that they could be safe. We do not want them to come here or to lose them through accident. That is very important. The workers, they are the main asset of this company.
So we have been having the Proterra visit every year so far. And as they come, they make recommendations. And from the recommendations, we have to react and get the recommendations fulfilled. And they come again and they check to see if we are complying or not. So this year, later on in the month, we are expecting to see them again for this year. So we have been working hard all the time. It's a continuous effort. It's not like, when they come, then we work. No, it's a continuous effort.
Both Albion and Blairmont estates have recorded impressive standards assessments ahead of the Proterra audit that will be carried out later this year.
For us to be competitive and people who are purchasing our sugar and buyers, they are looking us to produce the raw sugar at the standard of Proterra requirement, which is an EU standard, a Dutch standard by itself, dealing with food product, and sugar is one such food product among other food products. And it has to do with the way we produce the sugar, dealing with safety. We don't have any pollutant, any toxicity. We're not using any pesticide that would contaminate the sugar. We are adhering to human rights rules and regulation. We are reducing accident and incident as it relates to workers, employees, safety. It also deals with the environment, the protection of the environment, which is a major aspect of Proterra as well. It also deals with labor rules and regulation, how fair days work for fair days pay. It also looks at gender equality. It is a wide area, aspect of human rights as well. Whether we are paying female the same for doing the same job as male, the same sort of payment, which GuySuCo Guyana is adhering to. Looking at the way we are managing our water, right? Water conservation, soil conservation, right? So it's a holistic way of checking that you're also, at the end of the day, you're protecting the human rights, you're adhering to our standard of human rights, you're dealing with your environment in a very safe and protecting your environment. You're not polluting your environment. The European producers or the buyers of the sugar, when they reprocess it, on the package, the buyers or the people who are purchasing these sugar would look for these standards because they know is a standard that they could safely consume the food product. So it is something that is internationally recognized, right? And if you could adhere to it, well, then it is very safe. Albion Estate will be looking at starting to bag sugar, right? We'll look at bagging to begin with. We have planned to do packaging also, and that would also, the Proterra would help us to reach the ISO standard, which is also a requirement for packaged sugar. So we are moving in the right direction through Proterra, and we are also started training in ISO, where we have staff and other people involved in training centrally, and now they're bringing it to the estate so that when we move into the packaging, we can adhere to all the requirement and standard.
The Guyana Sugar Corporation has noted the concerns of our valued former employees, and the corporation wishes to inform that it is still in the process of reviewing the proposed payment for pensioners, which requires that payment be made through the banking system. The corporation currently has on roll more than 6,000 pensioners spread across estates. The corporation currently has in its employ over 11,000 employees at Albion, Blairmont, Iflot, Lebanon Intention head office, and other locations. However, due to the increasing security concerns as well as the reorganizing program, measures are being implemented to better align financial systems in an effort to improve efficiency and minimize risks. The corporation wishes to inform all of its valued pensioners that more information will become available on the review process. Pensioners are meanwhile invited to contact the Human Resources departments at their various estates and head office for further information. GuySuCo has partnered with the Ministry of Public Health in a show of commitment for employees and those closely associated with sugar. This time, the corporation has built the capacities of medics, a welfare and agriculture trained employee to intervene in addressing physical, mental, and emotional health issues among the men and boys in our estate communities. Coordinator of the Men's Health 5-Day Workshop, Dr. Dennis Bassir, is honored to have partnered with the corporation.
95% of the population there in GuySuCo are actually men, right? And the majority of the workers that have been made redundant are men. So for me, I would look at that aspect. Mental health serves both male and females, but of course, the males are predominantly more affected by this situation because oftentimes they're seen or they are the breadwinners of the family. So them being affected by this, there are a myriad of things that can actually stem from this situation. The initiative comes about at a very pivotal point in time, I would say, as it is that the men are faced with very distinct problems apart from those issues which would face the general population, especially women. So their issues have to be met. Given this traumatic period which they would be going through, GuySuCo and the Ministry of Public Health saw it as important to go forward with this venture. It was initially labeled as a Sustainable Communities Program by GuySuCo, and thus far we've been going forward with that. The Mental Health Department actually had the first workshop with GuySuCo workers, actually sensitize them to some of the issues which would be faced in that aspect. The Men's Health Unit now conducted this workshop, a 5-day workshop, to address some health-specific issues as well as some of the social issues which may arise with the workers as well as their families, given that they're not just second but even third generation workers, entire families which may be actually laid off or affected by this situation.
I'm very much grateful to GuySuCo for allowing me to come to this workshop. It's been very much informative. When we heard about men's health, we thought it was just concerning men, but it also taught us that men's health affects women, it affects children. I'm very much grateful for this opportunity to attend this workshop. And I look forward for many more. And indeed, whatever I've been taught, I'm not going to keep it to myself, but when I get back to my workplace, I'm going to share it with my colleagues. I'm more informed now. Yes, you're more informed, so you can indeed, if there's a problem, you can share. You can give an advice wherever necessary.
We can now pass this information that we have learned from this workshop so as to guide these folks and to let them understand much better that life goes on. Trauma needs to be treated. This workshop has taught me that I can use skills and knowledge to encourage the workers to live healthy lifestyles. Lifestyles to avoid drug abuse, alcoholism, and suicidal tendencies. Life ahead can be bright because from difficulties, we can rise above it and create opportunities. I am grateful towards GuySuCo for providing this great opportunity for me to be a part of this workshop. And I will use it to help the workforce that has been severed, and even if I'm placed at the next location within the region, to share the vast knowledge that I have learned in helping men to live a healthy life.
Estates and head office have again collaborated to make this year's observance of Occupational Health and Safety Month in April a record success. We bring you clips from the Domestic Violence Talk with employees.
One of the things I would like us to focus on, which is not very popular, and sometimes it could become very controversial. People have different opinions about this approach. But from prior to becoming the Gender Affairs Bureau, I was functioning as the administrator of the Men's Affairs Bureau. And so it means I've been exposed and had the, if I may use the word, privilege of interacting with men, young men, even boys. And we had interactions, discussions, counseling sessions. And so I would have been able to garner over those years and still continue to garner and to learn, apart from the fact that I'm a man myself, as it relates to what goes on in the mind of a man, bearing in mind that domestic violence, by the way, is not just about a man beating a woman, right? Domestic violence, just a light reminder as we go along, domestic violence is violence that the official definition is domestic violence. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize it, but domestic violence is violence that occurs in the home or the household, which immediately erases that picture that comes to mind immediately when we hear domestic violence. We get a graphic image in our minds of a man beating a woman, and that is not the true essence of what domestic violence is. Of course, it could be vice versa, and even then it is not limited to that, because if it is violence that occurs in the home or the household, it therefore means that even child abuse is a form of domestic violence. It also means if two adult brothers fighting in the house, that is a form of domestic violence as well. But for the purpose of what we're dealing with in Guyana, the seriousness of domestic violence, intimate partner violence is what I think you had in mind when you invited me here this afternoon, right? More like intimate partner violence. So for the purpose of adhering to that aspect of it, we will focus on that. Bearing in mind that it's not just the image or the concept of a man beating a woman, because that in itself is not domestic violence. But one of the things we want to bear in mind as we go along is that I believe the reason you're here and the purpose of this, I would like to think, is because with this information now you will be able to intervene and have a better understanding of the dynamics of the triggers and so on, and what causes it in the first place, so that you can be able to help others. Every one of us. If you provoke it to the nicest person in this room, if you are pushed enough, if you are provoked enough for a sustained period of time, and some of you for a shorter period of time, you are capable of committing a crime if you don't have the coping skills, if you don't have your religious belief to restrain you, you don't believe in a God, you don't believe thou shalt not and those things, you can do it. So child abuse is a form of domestic violence, violence that occurs in the home.
That's, I know sometimes when you get vexed, well, not you, sure, that tell me y'all is good people, but some people, some people, they get so angry to tell the children all sorts of things. You're a waste, me sorry, me make you. All those names we call the children. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a form of abuse. That's a form of verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse. Maya Angelou said something to the effect, the famous Maya Angelou, that people might forget what you say to them or different things that you do to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. How somebody make you feel, whether good or bad. If somebody make you feel nice, you will always remember how nice and appreciated. If they made you feel terrible, it's hard to forget. Based on my experience working with couples, there are a lot of men that are tearing up inside. They use phrases like, I feel cut up inside. I feel tear up inside. By the words their partner used to them. And some of the reasons why some men, gotta throw in again, this doesn't give them the right to do it, but some of the things that cause men to trip out, to snap, is because of a prolonged period of provocation or emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse. You don't really want to tell them to leave just so. Tell them you. Put the cards on the table and let them make the decision. Because sometimes when they leave, that fast forward the thing, and now the lady there, you tell she move. So, but of course, you don't go around telling them to stay in an abusive relationship either. Right? And even if they have to move, it's really dangerous and serious, and you tell them to move, help them with a plan. It's not just a reckless thing. This is life at stake here. You got to have a plan. So you got to know what time of the day you're moving. You got to be sure the coast is clear. You got to know where you're going. You got to educate everybody know.
And that's news this week.
From the very land that gave sugar around the world the name Demerara comes the finest quality of cane sugar, Demerara Gold. Enjoy the real thing from the original source, the rich, fertile Demerara coastline where sugarcane has been harvested since the mid-17th century. The result is here for you to enjoy. Wherever this unique sugar flavor is needed, Demerara Gold is the ingredient that will always create a stir.
To former employees, here's an opportunity to become a tradesman certified by the Board of Industrial Training through the GuySuCo Training Center. In partnership with the Ministry of Natural Resources, the GuySuCo Training Center at Port Morant will offer basic technical training in refrigeration, electrical installation, welding and fabrication, and motor vehicular servicing and repairs. Application forms are available at the Skeldon, Rose Hall, Enmore, and Wales Estate, as well as the GuySuCo Training Center.
The sugar industry has borne responsibilities from its genesis. In observance of Arrival Day, staff members at our head office organized a 7-curry cookout. Here's a taste.
matter where I be, I'm proud as to be me. I'll always represent. I'm always Guyanese in every party. Inside of the feds, country people overseas, never deny your Guyanese. In the morning, in the evening, in the day, in the night. I tell you, anywhere I go, I got my flag, my GT flag, yeah.
That was delicious. And with that, we've come to the end of this week's program of GuySuCo Roundup. Thank you for staying tuned and do join us again next week. I'm your host, Curtis Ital. Goodbye.